Welcome to Fill the Void podcast, where we discuss unhealthy human habits caused by the society of consumption. Welcome to another episode of Fill the Void podcast. Today, we are joined by Dr. Stefan Neff, a German-born doctor and survivor of trauma, depression, anxiety, PTSD, and addiction. His mission is to demystify mental health and show that there's always hope. And Dr. Neff is living proof that you're not alone and every moment is an opportunity to turn your life around. Welcome, Dr. Neff. Stefan, how are you?
I'm ever so well. Thank you very much, Roberta. Thank you very much for the privilege and the honor to be a guest on your show. I'm looking forward to deep dive into wherever you want to go. I'm all yours. You have got me. Go ahead, girl.
Thank you. Amazing. First of all, I want you to basically talk about yourself. Tell me, what's your story?
My story?
Yes.
I'm nowadays blessed to live in New Zealand and am an consultant anesthetist. So I've got a beautiful life here, far away from any of the chaos that is around the world at the moment. But my story doesn't start here. My story started in Germany, where I was born to probably more poorer parents, and from the word go, a latchkey child. Not that I had a horrendous childhood, but certainly there were certain probably abandonment issues. But that was normal in the 70s. Single parents went to work, and what do you do? So at one stage, I unfortunately became, when I was 13, I became the victim of a gang assault. And that unfortunately changed my world forever. They beat me up just because they could, and I ended up pretty damaged, more inside than outside. Let's put it like that. I put the gang leader behind bars. He threatened to kill me on his release, and I had no reason to believe that he wouldn't. So I had 3 years to prepare myself for a life and death fight. And I didn't have good role models. So really the role models that I had were sort of Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon or Bruce Willis in Die Hard. So the anti-heroes. And so I thought that is how a man has to be. And okay, so I became Rambo over the next 3-4 years. And for my body, that was a very nice thing. For my mind, no, not so much, because it was a very dark period. And during that dark period, there was not much laughter. They had knocked out my front teeth. And when you're young as a teenager, they don't replace your teeth permanently. They give you sort of temporary crowns, and they fell out and do things. And it's just horrific for a young man, for the self-esteem. So my self-esteem, who I was, it was completely broken and damaged. My goodness.
But then, your beliefs about yourself.
Oh, exactly. But also that night when I was beaten up, it was at a train station. I actually then entered the train or the tram, entered there. No one helped me. No one offered me. Everyone looked away, despite the fact that blood was coming from my face. And that probably laid down the belief that there is no help out there for me. No one will help me. So from now on, I will do it all myself. And that was probably the biggest thing that probably helped me back later on in seeking help or being open to learning more about maybe self-help or those kind of things. So it was intriguing. But then again, I mean, this kind of turning into Rambo, being the man, that also translated into being successful, going for goals. So my PTSD actually helped me down the line. It actually drove me to be better than others, drove me, Having said that, I certainly became a workaholic long before I became another holic. Let's put it like that.
And also because, as my concept in this podcast is, we're filling the void because we are filling the void with things to cover up the pain or to cope with whatever emotions. So
exactly
you were
right.
Basically filling the void with work to cover all the pain.
That's right. Escaping my reality. So I became an escape artist, and I got really good in that. Work, 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 work. And that was seen very positive in society. Here I was, the good German who went to school during the day, then went 3 days a week for an after-hour job, stacking shelves in a hardware shop, then doing 4 hours training in martial arts. Look what a man he is. So, when in reality I was running away.
And also
But
that, also like this like perfectionism and seeking perfectionism to
100%.
cover, it could be tricky, like because
Oh,
the
yeah.
being perfect makes you feel so good, but in reality, it's just like a screen, it's a mask.
Yes, but equally, the perfectionism that really is I mean, to be a perfectionist as a doctor is probably very
Yes,
good. So if most of your
yeah,
patients survive, hey, that's positive.
yes.
But if you put yourself, for example, to-do lists and write them down, my to-do lists as a young man, Superman on speed, could have not done a quarter of my to-do list. So therefore, because I couldn't do that to-do list, I
Yeah,
every day told myself I'm a failure because I can't even do 25 things that probably no other living human
exactly.
being could possibly do. But I set myself up with this core belief I'm a failure. And it's just
Unrealistic goals, unrealistic
abs-
goals.
absolutely. And it's so crazy when you think about it. My goodness. But that was then.
So
It's
how does the story continue?
Well, it continued with me going to university. Therefore, that it became clear to me that this gang leader will never find me. It because I was by that time very well built, and sooner or later the girls became quite attracted to me. So that was quite nice, and especially then when I discovered alcohol, because that suddenly allowed me to love. That
Yeah,
suddenly allowed me to break through, and it was such a beautiful thing after 5 years of darkness to now break out into this artificial light, this kind of cocktail and champagne induced light. Oh my goodness, I had some very beautiful times as a student, I have to say. The alcohol helped me initially tremendously to come out of my shell, and yeah, it was at that time it was really not a lifesaver. That's actually alcohol is a life destroyer. But at that time, like any evil friend, initially the outset is beautiful. So it
beautiful.
helped me reduce the pain tremendously.
And it was like the way you found to solve your problem. It was the problem solver that you found.
Hmm. And
It's an unhealthy one, but like
uh,
you
it
didn't
was a
know.
problem. It was a problem delayer because the problems didn't go away, but it
Yeah,
allowed me to escape for a little while. It allowed me to be that different person who forgot about the past, who was living in the moment, and that moment was typically at the side of a beautiful woman and filled with this beautiful rush of endorphins, of serotonin, of dopamine. All the good chemicals were rushing over me, and it felt so good. But needless to say, I had not done anything on my trauma. There was no healing involved anywhere there. There was also no growth involved because I I basically worked and played hard, and there
yeah,
was nothing in between. So, and again, in the 80s, that was all accepted, that was all part and parcel of it, etc. And I was certainly, whilst I was playing hard, I was working hard, and therefore I achieved. I became a doctor. I became probably quite a good doctor. I threw myself onto new projects left, right, and center. When other people did 100%, I did 110% to prove
exactly.
this external validation was all about, because I was probably very still at that time I was very insecure deep inside, so I had to prove myself to others over and over again.
Yeah,
Um,
that's it happens to all of us. I can relate to everything that you're saying. And it's crazy because addictive personalities also always like more or less not everyone, but like they're overachiever people, the addictive personalities. So everything has to be on an extreme. Everything is black or white. And in reality the key in life is on the grays. right?
No, it isn't. Yes, you're so right. You're absolutely right. And I was that. And unfortunately, my life continued like that. So I continued really for decades working hard, playing hard. And there was a boom and bust cycle. I went like I don't know, in the 90s or in the noughts, there was this Energizer Bunny, an advertisement of a battery factory, and the Energizer Bunny went down, and
Yeah.
I was this Energizer Bunny, and I went, then I crashed for a few days, and typically got a massive cold or something like that. I was burning out on multiple levels repeatedly, and that was not a sustainable kind of thing. But it really took me to my mid-40s until I came to a point where really I ended up in rehab. I ended up in a 4-week stint in a rehab, and it was the best thing ever. The absolute best thing. And the worst thing, the hardest thing I've probably done in my life was to actually open up to my own self and get to know the demons within me, get to know the broken me at that time, the fragments that were floating within me, that the core beliefs that often didn't make any sense. It was to actually stop and feel.
Yeah,
Stop
getting
and
to the
think.
void. Getting to the void
Absolutely.
and
Ah,
explore, navigate the void.
absolutely. And it was weird. It was so weird. Many core beliefs were really completely put.
I was
Um,
gonna ask you, like, how did you do it? Like, were you scared? Of course you were scared, but like, can you
hmm.
describe what were the first things you felt when you got to like know yourself?
I realized that addiction, depression, PTSD, they're all big fat liars. They lie to you. They lie to you that there is no help out there, that there is no hope out there. These were
Yeah.
all lies. And one of the first things I realized is when I went into rehab. I was in this beautiful hospital, and soon, within a few days, I figured out that absolutely everyone who I engaged with was an addict. But the nurse, the yoga instructor,
Yeah.
the everyone in that hospital was previously, several years prior, was in my seat. And I thought, huh, okay. That kind of I'm all alone, no one could possibly be like me. So that was already chopped a little bit to pieces. And then 2 weeks down the line, the boss of the hospital took me out for a Saturday morning. Hey, we have a coffee. I want you to meet someone. And so we drove to a cafe, and I was sort of looking around, and I saw this colleague of mine there. And I had, prior to that, I'd organized conferences, and I had invited this dude as a guest speaker on the conferences. So I held him in high esteem.
Yeah.
And it turned out that he was just like me. He
Yeah.
had fallen foul of medications, and had been on this journey where I just started out. He had been on that journey for 10 years now. And I was gobsmacked. I was thought, wow. And so it went on. So slowly but surely, the people around me helped me to peel away the masks that I was wearing, the defenses that I had put up, and allowed me to have a look into this mirror and look at myself, listen to what I'm saying, writing, doing, and asking me the right questions. I mean, a lot of things had happened to me. I was very
Yeah.
resentful and full of anger towards others.
Anger is
And,
the worst emotion.
oh, isn't it?
The
Resentment.
worst.
Oh boy. But that was typical. That was typical for me. Look what you have done to me. I show you. I drink a whole bottle of vodka. Ha ha. That will show you. And you think,
Yeah.
what? What? It's beautifully crazy.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But people need to show you that, and people need to allow you to realize that you are actually a big part of the problem.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest breakthrough for me, to actually understand that, first of all, what happened to me might not be the worst ever. And that was hard for me to take. because I was so hurt inside by others. I could not possibly imagine that there's others out there. And my caseworker gave me a book to read about a woman who, the book starts off, yeah, she's coming home on a Saturday morning, and there's her estranged husband who in her driveway will kill her children and her father in front of her in the first 10 pages. And I read that and I thought,
Yeah.
and it was this pissing contest. And I said, oh shit, she is winning. And then I suddenly realized how crazy that thought was. And then I realized, hang on. And so it was little breakthroughs like that, where slowly but surely your core beliefs that are pretty fucked up sometimes absolutely get slowly pulled out into the open. And with the right people guiding you, you can change those core beliefs. I strongly believe it's not for others to change you, but for others to ask you the question, and you and your mind and your soul, your spirit, your body coming up with the right solutions. And that was the big breakthroughs that happened big time in rehab, but also happened later on to help me deal with the PTSD, to help me deal with other things that until then were actually not so much addressed. So I needed to address sobriety first. Then I was this empty vessel, this empty man, who I didn't know who I was. I could only identify myself with external validation. I only knew what, I'm a doctor. No, Stefan, who are you? Well, I'm a doctor, I told you that. And it was that kind of craziness. And then I saw it as a privilege because I had a new blank canvas and I could paint any painting I wanted. And I did. So I always had this saying, there's not enough cheesecake in this world, thinking that the world is too, down and out. And then in early recovery, I thought, okay, well, let's learn about German baked cheesecakes. And I baked cheesecakes and I thought, well, let's take a few photos. And why don't I write a book about German baked cheesecakes? Let's write a cookbook. And that's what I did. It was my first book that I wrote. So
amazing.
And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And then I did quite a lot of books, and I keep writing books. Needless to say, all my cookbooks I've taken off the market because they were shit. They were encyclopedias of cheesecake, and there were a few things, a few recipes in there. My goodness. Also nowadays,
Stefan, why do you think that in the world that we live and our society, which is a little bit sick in a way, we are all trying to escape our emotions, we're all trying to escape our realities, and I feel everyone is suffering or unhappy in a way. Like, why is this happening? Isn't there a way? Like, what is the way?
First of all, it's absolutely normal that you feel a certain way. And that certain way might be tired, might be happy, might be sad, might be a whole kaleidoscope of emotions. And we nowadays, especially sort of probably more your generation and any generation to come, is so fixated about this saccharine sweet, sugar sweet Coca-Cola advertisement. I have to look just right. And, I'm sure some people, they only look like that. I'm sure they don't have another face. It's just like that. And you think, fuck off. It's constantly this kind of, you have to be a certain way. And the sheer fact how many young women and men use filters on their Instagram, etc., to try to portray themselves in a way, my goodness, that's not real life. So we are setting ourselves up to fail by, from the word go, aiming for that I always have to be happy, extremely happy, and extremely lucky, and extremely rich, and extremely that. And it doesn't work like that, guys.
Everything is unrealistic. Everything is unrealistic. And then we're frustrated.
Exactly. So I think that's the big bottom part. The other thing is that we live very busy lives, often self-inflicted with social media, etc., whatever you call it now. But people don't take the time out to actually listen to their body and listen to what is going on. They don't experience feelings for what they are. They are annoyed about their feelings. I shouldn't
Exactly.
feel like that. I shouldn't feel down. I should be happy. And it is that kind of, oh my God, no. There are days when you feel down. There are
Yeah.
days when you haven't slept well, when you probably haven't eaten well, when you haven't hydrated, when actually some nasty people have written you a stupid email, or you failed in a job application, or you were made redundant,
Exactly.
These things are normal, but we do no longer accept that as normal. We accept this Instagram life as that is what I need to be. In the past, it was called keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
You have to have the right car, your garden need to be the right thing. So every generation has this kind of pressure, but I think these
Yeah.
pressures have gotten worse.
Yeah.
I think the moment you start accepting that it is normal, what you're feeling, I think that is the hugest breakthrough.
Yeah.
Then you need to figure out, and I strongly believe that every feeling you've got is a message from your body. So if you're feeling down and out, and consistently so, then I ask you, well, okay, hang on, what is going on in your life? Often enough, I would say, well, would it be time that you see your GP, your family physician, and actually just run a few blood tests? So many young women, or women in general, are iron deficient. They're
Yeah.
anemic. They feel
Yes.
like shit just because of that. If I can construct you a diet that will cause you depression, anxiety, and everything, I can just do that give me 3 months, and I turn you into a wreck. And many people don't know about that, and therefore do it naturally themselves. The lack of sleep hygiene sets you up to be an absolute anxious wreck. You're tired yet anxious. You're not your best, therefore you're failing, or maybe not doing as well as you otherwise could. There you go. You're creating often enough your own misery. Plus,
Yeah.
then add the sheer fact that the world is not very nice at the moment. It is very divisive in the United States. My goodness. There is a
Definitely.
lot of catastrophizing that might be right or might be wrong. There's a lot of false media. You don't know who you can really listen to. I think there are a lot of falsifying and catastrophizing going on. So all this
Yeah.
is happening at the
Yeah.
same time, and it's
And
really,
even
really hard.
worse, yeah, and even worse in here in America where everything is about consumption and like if you feel
Uh,
bad, take this because you will feel better or take that and like that's the only solution.
yeah,
And that is breaking us in every sense.
I love it. I
Um
love it what you say. I love it. And
yeah.
that's the classic thing. Take for example serotonin. Serotonin is something that we believe, that one belief system is that depression is a lower level of serotonin. Therefore, we give you Prozac, etc., which lifts the levels of serotonin. Well, if I was to tell you that actually there are essential amino acids that you have to have, so a protein-rich diet, that then needs zinc and vitamin D and other little bits to actually get you to serotonin. And you need a healthy gut to actually create that, because
Yeah.
much of the serotonin is produced down there.
Yeah.
If I tell you that, and if I actually create all that right for you, and suddenly your serotonin lifts up, ta-da! No Prozac was
Exactly.
ever harmed in the making of this. If I teach you to go out there into the nature, expose yourself to some sunlight, expose yourself to some nature in its own right, actually do a bit of exercise, therefore bring a bit more bits
Yeah.
of goodies around and wash out the rubbish out of your system. If we do the small bits right,
Every day.
suddenly you change. You
Yeah.
change because you've now paid attention to your sleep. You, before your feet hit the ground, you had a glass of water, so you've rehydrated. Your breakfast consists not out of 10,000 chemicals that come in sprinkles, but
Yeah.
rather something that maybe your grandmother would have recognized. Then
And can I ask you a question
shoot,
related
shoot.
to this? And I have a very addictive personality also. That's why I started this podcast. For me, people with compulsive behaviors or addictive personalities, the world doesn't help you. They're always like tempting you with like going out, with food, even. Everything
Yeah,
tempts me.
true.
And so now we have to live in this way where I have to like be careful of everything that's outside instead of being able to be relaxed. You know what I mean? What can you say
That's
about
true.
this?
You're very right. You're right. You're up against a trillion, gazillion dollar industry who wants you to buy more and is absolutely brutal in the advertisement.
Yes.
You will find that, for example, when it comes to alcohol, there is a bit of a problem with advertising now for alcohol as direct advertisements. So what do the companies do? They do product placement. Now, there was a beautiful study looking at two main streaming channels, and they analyzed, I think, 1,000 hours of the main shows that people watched on these two big streaming channels.
Yeah.
And it turns out that about every 3 to 3.5 minutes, alcohol is being drunk, shown, or placed in one way or the other. And it's quite amazing because regardless what you watched, regardless which genre of films or shows you watched, in the one streaming channel, really everyone loves whiskey, and specifically one type of whiskey. Whilst in the other streaming channel,
That's crazy.
doesn't matter what kind of genre you watch, law or crime or whatever, adventure, they all love beer and a certain kind of beer. Funny that is. Okay.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So here you are. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. There are people out there who earn far more than 10 of us together per year in order to make you buy, consume, drink, or behave in a certain way. And
Yeah.
you're quite right. And they are not thinking in your favor. On
Yeah.
the contrary.
And then, like we all end up having different type of problems. And then the worst part is that there's stigma around the problems that we have.
No. Well, we are changing. We are changing. People like you who offer such a platform can show that actually it is normal to be like that. Let's
Yeah.
go for the figures. 1 in 4 is chemically addicted. So that's 25% of the population. Your chance of being depressed, 1 in 3 in your lifetime. Chances of PTSD depends upon how you live. And if you're a soldier on the battlefield, or, my goodness, if you're a Yazidi woman under ISIS, well, that's more than 50%, etc. But if it is, let's say, motor vehicle accidents, about 10 to 30% of people after a nasty. That's all normal. You can't say that's abnormal. It's a disease. It's a whatever it is. No, I'm sorry. This is life. And unfortunately, most of us do no longer learn how to live with negative emotions. Take a little child. It falls off the bike, has scraped his knee. Well, mummy or grandma are not sitting down, giving a hug and say, look, let's just give it some time. This will pass. No, what do? Oh, here's a lolly. Come on, shove it down your throat. So now you know pain, then sugar. Sugar makes me feel good. Cool. I've learned. Thank you, Grandma. Thank you. So, and it's that exactly. So we are no longer accepting life on its own terms. Life comes with suffering. Life comes with death. Life comes with trauma. This is all normal. It is a measure of us being emotionally intelligent to learn to become resilient, to take those challenges in our lives and turn them into opportunities. I recently wrote a book chapter called PTSD is My Superpower, because whatever happens to you, it's up to you how you frame it, how you rephrase it, how you use it to drive you forward. You can use that trauma, all that pain that is in you. You can either try to run away from it, and I've done that and it doesn't work really so well, or you can use it as the energy that pulls back the string of your bow. And now you're so much in pain, you're so much pissed off with what is going on. Now you just need to decide, where do you want to go? What is your direction? But you've got all that energy waiting to be released. You can release it in harmful ways, or you can release it in a way that you say, okay, fuck that. I want to be that person. And for that, you need to have a dream. That dream, you need to figure out, well, who do you want to be when you grow up? And it doesn't matter how old you are. Who do you want to be? Who is that person you really, truly want to be? And you get this dream. And then what you need to do is you need to get more specific. You need to actually turn that dream into a vision. So, I want to be rich. You will, okay, how much do you want? I don't know. Okay, 1,250,000. Fine, we've got a goal. Okay, you want to be what? Slim? No, yeah, okay, I want to be slim. Cool. How many kilogram? How will you look? What will you wear when you've got it on? Create a very crystal clear vision. So dream becomes a vision, and now you take action, and it becomes a mission. And that is when the action starts. That's when you actually, when you do small steps. And you need to do small steps. Please, we are recording that today on the 12th of January. So by now, 90% of New Year's resolutions have already failed. Okay? So no big, I'm gonna be whatever your New Year's resolution was. Fuck it, no. Small steps. The 5-minute gardener, I call it. Imagine you've got a garden, and from now on, every day, you will spend 5 minutes in your garden. Never less, never more. But every day, 5 minutes. Could you imagine that after a week, you notice a difference? After a month, your family will say, wow, garden looks nice. After 3 months, probably bus tours will come along and say, wow, what a garden. So small steps, but consistent, will get you.
Small steps.
Absolutely. And it is such a basic principle, but when you actually turn it into a habit, it is mind-blowing how compound interest will get you somewhere. It's you celebrating the small wins that will get you through the day and get you towards a state where you suddenly say, wow, look, this morning I just got up. Well, that's something cool for some people. Many of us don't. I got up. I actually made my bed, or at least opened it up, and then I had a shower. I actually got dressed. I had some breakfast. I actually cleaned up the kitchen. Small little things. Well, in the past, maybe the procrastinator in you told you, oh, come on, let's do it tomorrow. And it's such a big work. I started timing things. I've got a little garden in the front, as in grass. I normally rather put other things in, but a bit of grass is there. So, I need to mow the lawns. Well, it takes me 8 minutes to mow the lawns. For Christ's sake, come on, 8 minutes.
Yeah, and this is so important what you're saying, because it even happens to me in my day-to-day when I have like small things that I have to do, and maybe they're a little annoying. And I'm like, oh, this, and it gives me anxiety knowing that I have to do all these things. But in reality, if I focus on each of the things, it's like you just enjoy that thing and that's it.
Very good, very good. I'm just writing an article. The Zen of water blasting, of power blasting, or power cleaning, I think you call it in the States. And because I had to clean up my backyard, and I thought, nah. And then I found myself actually in this calm, Zen-like state as I was doing the job. And I thought, hey, that's cool. So I took my camera, took a picture of me Zen-like sitting there with the water blaster. And, you know, it is how you change your perception of the things that maybe are necessary.
Exactly.
If you have to do a chore, like hoover, clean up the house, well, put your earphones on and listen to maybe to an inspirational podcast. Or listen to some comedy. You don't have to listen to the whatever negative things. I was 2-3 days ago, I was a bit down and out, and I said, no, fuck it. I'm gonna put some comedy on, and I watched 3 hours of comedy, and I found myself laughing whilst I was doing all kind of chores, and I didn't realize that I was doing the chores. I was just laughing, listening, blah blah blah, and then I looked down and I thought, look what you've achieved. And so
as stupid as it may seem, the key is literally focusing on the little things.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. And we've got power. It's beautiful. You're not a victim. You're not even a survivor. You're a thriver.
Exactly. And also there's this like movement I feel in current times of like coaches. I am a health coach, you know, but on Instagram there's all these coaches, like they're all saying the same things in my opinion. Everybody's communicating the same kind of information. And even for people that are victims of the system or like addictive personalities, compulsive behaviors, we can't stand long processes. We can't wait and focus or wait years to change. We want like a quick fix. That's
Yeah.
what we want. We want to see the change now and we want to feel good now. So, do you think addictive personalities can find balance, or we need to replace one thing for another?
Absolutely. And I think the trick is to use very small steps and then celebrate the wins. I think
Yeah.
if you think for the really big things, sorry, it won't work. I will not be able to now. I will make 1 million this year. Okay. I might, however, say I will spend today 5 minutes on my finances. And today in 5 minutes, I will look through my bank account statement and figure out where are outgoings that are no longer valid. For example, some subscription I've done 2 years ago that still runs there. So I won't be able to make 1 million today, but I will probably be able to shave $100, $200, $300 off this year by just 5 minutes of investment and going through it. And then tomorrow I will look 5 minutes at my insurance cover. Is the insurance
Yeah.
cover still there? The next day I might listen to a podcast,
Yeah. And like, what other tools did you find helpful in your journey towards recovery?
Breathing. I think breath work was always the key thing for me. The power of breathing, with that you can change your state so dramatically. We are all in a fight and flight and freeze kind of sympathetic nervous system constantly. For me to actually breathe, take time out, to do with that also some stretching. I'm good. Going back when I was Rambo, I did martial arts and I did jujutsu, which has a bit of breathing in there, which has a bit of meditation in there.
My husband is addicted to stretching.
To-
He's an addict to stretching.
Well, I was about to say, that was then, and I was quite flexible then. And now, 57, last year, I became a breath coach and I became a flexibility coach. Now I'm 57, I'm stiff like a brick, but you can still enjoy flexibility and you can still actually change something. So for me to actually become a flexibility coach, although I will not take on any students, it was a win for me. It was a challenge for me. It was me learning how to use my body in such a different way. Because with that, we can also change our state. With that, we can change the way we are. And it's just beautiful. So therefore, yes, it also means you take time out. Yeah. The breathing, with that, you're not looking at your phone. You're not looking at various things. You're actually taking time out. And that is so important. Yeah. Give yourself the peace that you deserve. I would say at least half an hour a day.
Yeah. And Stefan, I have 2 more questions for you.
Absolutely.
The first of all, in your bio, you mentioned like helping people live a life full of joy. Could you elaborate on what a life full of joy means to you?
That will always change, will it not? Because there are times that are really hard, and the joy in that hard circumstance might just be surviving the day. It might just be actually not giving in to a drink, not giving in to suicidal ideation, not giving in to anything, There are some of the extremes which we need to acknowledge. There will be days like that. There will be other days when you get the freedom, when you have the freedom, the privilege to create your day. And then many of us are filling it just with a lot of rubbish, whilst we often don't put those things first that create joy for us, that predictably will put us in a better mood. This could be dealing with procrastination. So it might like pulling a tooth. There's a bit of pain, but afterwards you feel better. So if you actually have not addressed a phone call to your, let's say your parents, you haven't spoken with them for a long time and you feel guilty and ashamed and negative emotions and, oh my God, what will I say? just pick up the bloody phone and call. And suddenly that is done. I had this last night. I dealt with an email that I procrastinated over. Someone challenged me. Someone was I could have told him, fuck off, get out of my life. Or I could have dealt with that, and I did. But it took me 3 days, and 3 days of ruminating, of thinking, of feeling. I wasted 3 days, basically. But I only last night found maybe the strength to deal with it. So this could be one thing, and today I feel joy that I've actually achieved that. But the simple thing of actually creating joy, listening to the comedy. If you like swimming, make sure you go for a swim. If you like walking in life, go out there. If you like dancing, go dance. Put the music on right now. And you know, if you look at Mrs. Doubtfire, when Robin Williams is dressed up and is doing rock and roll with the Hoover in Mrs. Doubtfire, that's the kind of how you turn your life around, how you have fun. And we keep forgetting that. So what has brought fun to you in the past? When I was 18, I studied circus arts. I studied juggling, rope walking, fire spitting, you name it, I did it. That was when I was 18. Well, guess what? I bought myself some juggling gear. I bought myself some cool toys.
Amazing.
And I want to create again that feel good.
Sometimes we take everything so seriously, and in reality, why do we do that? Because, you know, life is one, and there's no point in being so serious.
Roberta, but that is, the life at the moment is hard. Let's be clear out there.
I suffer every day of my life. I always say humans, we suffer, and I fight against myself every day.
Yeah.
You know,
that's interesting
difficult.
I love it that you say that, but that you acknowledge your feelings, and that allows you name it, you can tame it there, and that's so lovely what you're doing. Whilst most of others, they are just feeling these emotions. They don't even know what's going on, and then they react. They react to resentment, or with resentment, anger, negative emotions. And it's a vicious circle for them. Whilst with you have interrupted that circle. And that's a challenge every day.
A challenge every day. Yeah. One day at a time. And so, Stefan, my last question to you is, in your own words, what message of hope would you like to share with individuals that currently are facing mental health struggles or addiction?
The past does not equal the future. This will pass. It is, if you are swimming in the ocean and there is a big wave coming, you can be angry with that wave. You can say, "You wave, stay away from me. I hate you, wave." The wave doesn't care. So you may as well learn to deal with that wave. You can learn to surf. You can learn how to dive underneath it. You can just let the power of the wave throw you around in the surf, and you feel the power of the ocean. You have got a choice. You can't change what is happening out there, but you can change how you react to it. And I very much want you to be in the driver's seat there. But you need to accept that these waves are coming. That means things in the outside world happen. Waves of neurochemicals happen, like feeling sad or feeling anxious.
This is the best analogy I've ever heard. I love this analogy. Thank you so much for sharing.
An absolute pleasure. Roberta, it was an absolute honor and privilege for me to be on your show. Thank you very much for you to create this ambience, create this place of transparency, of integrity, of honesty, authenticity, where we actually can all be open, and maybe by opening up a little bit, share that there is hope and that there is help out there.
Thank you so much, Stefan. It was a real pleasure talking to you. You're incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.